This is the Doctor, President-elect of the High Council of Time Lords.
I am definitely a madman with a box.
Anyone for jelly, baby?
I'm the Doctor. I'm 904 years old. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Castabras.
Hey you fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 74.
74. Woohoo!
We looked at each other then.
Left you hanging.
Adam looked at me then like, what are you waiting for, Gary?
I was trying to phase it out slowly, but you got me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you.
Phasing out, here we are coming at you from somewhere in time and space. There's something we haven't said for a while.
A long time, yeah.
Is that right? Is that what you say?
Coming from, I think it was, coming at you from somewhere in time and space.
Space and time.
Whichever suits, really.
Whichever floats your boat
or your TARDIS. Yeah. So, Who fans, hope you've had a cracking week. And we're looking forward to going through some Who News with you. And then on to our review of the Brain of Morbius.
Death.
Sacred flame, sacred everything. Yeah. So that's going to be a good one. Looking forward to that, mate. What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I have been... Well, I polished off the old River Song box set, which I actually quite enjoyed in the end.
Did you get into it in the end? Because you said the first half wasn't really... Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did. Overall, I quite enjoyed it, yeah. I think the thing is... Because I listened to it straight after the War Doctor, which was so good. It kind of fell a bit flat, I think, for me to begin with. But no, I actually really enjoyed it in the end overall. Yeah, because McGann comes into it finally, and I just love McGann. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it in the end. So I'm glad that I went through with that, and I listened to the extras, and they were all very good. What else have I been up to? Oh, I've been chasing up our old friends Forbidden Planet for deliveries that have been waiting to be dispatched for about 2.5 weeks now.
There's a shock. There's a shocker.
Yep. Yeah, so that's been my week, really. Just listening to audios, firing off emails. I haven't watched any horror channels this week, which I normally, drift over to that one. What else have I been doing? Oh, I watched the NTAs last night, National Television Awards.
Yeah, me too.
Disappointing, wasn't it? Obviously, we wanted to see Doctor Who triumph, but that blimmin' Downtown Abbey.
Yes, I was watching... I was in and out of various social platforms last night throughout the NTAs, and on Snapchat, the Who Addicts guys were not pleased at all.
No.
With some of the results, so their reactions were very funny, and it's that bloody Downton. You just can't. It's finished though, isn't it? Is Downton finished completely?
Yeah, I hope so. I expect they'll bring it back at some point for a special. They're bound to, but supposedly it's done for good. I must admit, I've never really got into Downtown. I've never watched it, so I can't really comment. I know there are people out there that love it, but yeah, obviously we wanted Doctor Who to win. There was no sign of Capaldi in the audience, was there? We had Stephen Moffat, and they caught him really badly with the camera, didn't they? He looked so miserable when they sort of zoomed in on him, and I don't know if it was just bad timing or if he was generally just miserable, but yeah, there was a quick shot of him in the audience. He just looked grumpy as hell.
Yeah,
and that was before they announced the result.
He does look like that sometimes, though, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah.
There are times when we've seen him on TV before, and he's not looking at the camera. I think they've just filmed him, in attendance somewhere, and he has got one of those faces where he looks like he's thinking really hard about something, or he's genuinely got the hump about many things. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, actually, talking to getting the hump, I did get the hump with it because I thought the clip they chose to show for Doctor Who was really rubbish, because clearly they just picked that clip because Maisie Williams was in it and she was in the audience at the NTAs, and obviously like she was presenting the award. But I was thinking, like, because it was the drama category, and they showed sort of really intense, really well acted clips from all the other shows like Broadchurch and all that, really sort of put it across as that looks quite good. And then got to Doctor Who, and it was this clip of from The Woman Who Lived, wasn't it? Of them sort of pratfalling, and it was a really silly, jokey clip. And I was thinking, oh, that seems really out of place with the rest of them. You know, they could have showed a clip from the Zygon speech, or, you know, Face the Raven, or something really good. But no, they chose that stupid, you know, clip of them fooling around. And I was like, I was a bit annoyed by that. But it was clearly just because Maisie Williams was in it, wasn't it? Like,
oh yeah, you
know.
And I think it's a bit of a tough one as well, you know, because it does seem a little bit out of place in just the drama category. Because when you compare it to things like Broadchurch and Downton Abbey, they're like in my mind, they're like true drama.
Yeah.
You know, whereas Doctor Who is, you know, has moments of being really, really funny. So it's very comedic at times. And it's also, you know, it's obviously very sci-fi and all that sort of stuff. So in my opinion, it doesn't really fit into I mean, if they had a category like best drama moment or best drama scene or something like that, then they could probably pull out, you know, a few really good bits from Who, like the speech in the Zygon two-parter and that kind of thing. But I think Doctor Who's got other elements in it that muddy the water a little bit. It doesn't really suit just being in a true drama, but they haven't got a category for like sci-fi or any of that stuff. So it's I'm not making an excuse. It's not like you know, it's not like it should have its own category to win sort of thing. It's just more like it's more that they haven't really got a category. It's a lot like when people confuse horror and sci-fi. So on anyone that's got Sky TV, the movie channel that caters for both is horror. It's horror stroke sci-fi, which is weird because they're two very different things. And it really burns the bacon when people confuse sci-fi and horror. That's the same thing with the TV stuff. Really, there isn't really a category that's properly suited to it. So
I know what you mean. You can't really pigeonhole it. It's entertainment. Yeah, like you said, it can be dark, it can be silly, it can be fun. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what you were saying about the social media side of it, though. It's one of the things I love when watching these type of programs is just seeing people's reaction on Twitter, because it was so funny at the end of it when the EastEnders cast were kind of thrown off stage because they were taking so long. Well, actually, I think it's just because they'd run out of time, hadn't they? They more or less just threw them off the stage. And Kelly Bright, one of the actresses in it, was her face, like the people were putting on Twitter, like a screenshot of her furious face. And, you know, I just love following social media for these type of things. And obviously loads of people were kicking off about Doctor Who. Surprisingly, a lot of the things I saw on Twitter were people saying, you know, they weren't surprised. It was almost as if us Who fans weren't really expecting it to win. But I think that's because a lot of people thought Broadchurch was going to take it, I think. Yeah. From what I can tell, from what I saw on Twitter.
Yes, I thought Broadchurch was going to take it. Because it was always reviewed really well at the time when it was on. You know, it was always, you know, how good Tennant was and the actual writing and stuff. It was all that stuff. But, you know, Downton's got so many viewers, and yeah, it's just ridiculous. But
if they had a best crying category,
a breast
crying category, Olivia Colman would win it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's the best TV crying I've ever seen.
She cried a lot in the second season of second series of Broadchurch. Yeah. She cried a lot. Yeah. And Ant and Dec picked up the best TV presenter award. Was it for the 15th year? The 15th time in a row?
Yeah.
Those guys are on fire.
They are. I must admit though that I don't begrudge it, because actually they do what they do quite well, don't they? Yeah. I just think they are just. And you know, they are just what they are. Yeah. So yeah, but I think they have won it a fair few years running now. Yeah,
and fair play to Billy Connolly as well. The special recognition award, that was a highlight. That's probably the best bit of the show, I would say. Him getting that award. Yeah. Yeah,
Dustin Hoffman presenting it and stuff. Yeah, that was a nice moment. Yeah. Yeah. What do they call him? The Big Yin, is it? The Big Yin?
The Big Yin.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. He's cool. Oh, Billy Connolly.
Should have done the voice of Shrek, really.
Yes, I always think that's weird, actually, that they got Mike Myers to do that and then do it in the Scottish accent. So it's like, might as well got someone Scottish.
Yeah, because he's a comedic actor.
Is he Canadian or American? I can't remember, but he's not Scottish. Well, actually, I think his parents might be Scottish, to be fair, something like that.
Yeah, who? Mike Myers?
Yeah.
I think he's British. I think he was born and raised in England for a while and then buggered off to the US, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Because he starred in a TV programme that was on ITV or BBC when he was like 19 or something like that, 18 or 19.
Oh, right. So one of those shows they dig out to embarrass them on like chat shows and things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the NTAs didn't come up trumps for old Who, but not really that bothered. I'll be honest with you. Not really that fussed about it, but it would have been nice, but there we go.
Would have been nice. So what have you been up to this week, my friend, apart from watching the NTAs?
Apart from watching NTAs, not a lot, to be honest with you. I've been away with work a couple of times. I've been really busy, which reminds me, actually, I do need to apologise to you guys because I did say that I would get the extra wallpaper done of the War Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been a bit slack. I'm really sorry. I've just been totally busy. So when it comes round, I normally do these things in the evening and I've just been really busy, so I just haven't had the time. So I will absolutely, definitely endeavour to try and get it out to you by the next podcast. So at some point in the next few days, hopefully. I'm going to try and do it later tonight. We're recording this on Thursday, the 21st, and I will try and get it done this evening or by the weekend. So it'll be on its way soon.
Sometimes work and life just gets in the way of fun things, doesn't it?
It does, mate, yeah.
I have to say, I did love your first Doctor happy birthday thing. The poster sort of that you did for that was really cool. Because I'm not very good with technical stuff, so I kind of just went on to Movie Maker, got an old photo and wrote happy birthday over it, and it looked really paled in comparison to your brilliant. No, I really did like it though. That was really nice. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's I got a message from a guy called Lee Binding as well. For those of you who don't know, Lee Binding is the guy that did all of the artwork for the posters for each episode for series 7. Like those movie style posters, the Matt Smith ones and stuff. And he said that piece that I did was really good, and he said it was very, very cool.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice acknowledgement. Yeah, I thought the name rang a bell. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really cool of him. I'm going to do some more of those. I was hoping to do one for each Doctor, but I just haven't had the time. So I'll probably do the Tom Baker one very soon. And there's another birthday, another Who birthday coming up at some point soon. Another actor. It's is it Paul McGann?
Is it?
Somebody coming up soon. So we do have to say happy birthday actually to Tom Baker, don't we?
Yes, we do. Would have been yesterday, but when you're hearing this, probably a couple of days ago. So it was on Wednesday, wasn't it? His actual birthday.
Yes,
I believe 82 Earth years old. 82,
yes.
Yeah. I watched his little video this morning. Have you seen it on his Facebook page?
Yeah.
He posted a little video where he's laughing a lot, isn't he? And he's just saying he's going to have a break from doing autographs because you can send stuff in and get him to sign it. To him. So he's just going to take a break over his sort of next couple of months. But really nice little video, isn't it? He just is bonkers as ever. And
he never changes, does he?
No, just love Tom.
Yeah, he's awesome, yeah. Sorry, it was not Paul McGann's birthday coming up. Very sorry. It's John Hurt.
Oh, John Hurt.
Today, actually, if you're listening to this, it's Friday, the 22nd. It's today. So, happy birthday, John Hurt, as well, the War Doctor.
The War Doctor. Wonder if Big Finish will do any special offer. Mind you, they've only got the one of him out so far, haven't they?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. That reminds me. Something else I've done also is I picked up because for Tom Baker's birthday they did a load of offers on stuff, and I picked up the interview that Nick Briggs did with Tom Baker. That I think you got it when it first came out. It's just a 2-hour interview. I think it's just called Tom Baker at 80. Yeah. Or something when he was and that was only a £5 yesterday.
Absolute bargain. So that's such a good disc.
Yeah, so immediately picked that up.
Oh, it's a good buy, mate. It's really, really good. Yeah, can't recommend that enough. It's strange, actually, because when you listen to Tom on that, he's so mellow now compared to... there's an interview floating around on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen it. I think it's called just like an evening with or something. Somebody just invited Tom Baker to come and sit in their front room. And I mean, Tom I don't think anyone gets a word in, but Tom's just so fascinating to listen to, and he does just sit there for, I think it's like an hour and a half, just telling story after story, and he's so funny, but his language is really fruity in it, and he's got sort of he's got a bit more of a, I wouldn't say aggressive side, but like a bit more of a kick to him. Right. Whereas when you listen to him now, he's so mellow, and he's become a bit of a sort of charming, crazy old gent, isn't he?
Yeah.
But that's a great. Yeah, I'm glad you've got that. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a really good one.
Sure.
Yeah, he gets on well with old Briggsy as well. They've obviously got quite a good little rapport between the two of them.
Yeah. So happy birthday, Fourth Doctor, Mr. Baker.
Mr. Baker.
Yeah.
I am slightly disappointed you're not rocking. See, I've got my Tom Baker scarf on for the benefit of the listeners because we're doing a Tom Baker classic today, and I thought, well, Gary's just bought that giant Tom Baker scarf. He's bound to have it on, but he hasn't.
No, it's too warm in here for me, mate. It's the weather's been like really bitingly cold the last couple of days, and so I'm rocking the central heating for a while.
To be fair, the one you've got is so much thicker and longer than mine, because yours is the proper screen accurate one, whereas mine's the first edition that they did, which is actually pretty weak compared to yours. So I understand.
Yeah. I'd be sweating buckets after a few minutes wearing that. Yeah. But yes, it's oh god, I'm so happy I bought that scarf now. It's just so nice. Anyways, otherwise nothing else really that I've been doing. Haven't watched any more classic Who's other than the Brain of Morbius again. I watched that. I think I watched it last week as well. And it is a coincidence as well that we're doing that Tom Baker story in his birthday week. That's another little cool coincidence.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So yeah, that's me. Oh, I thought also thank you to a bunch of Twitter peeps who have been recommending some Pop Funko sites to pre-order some stuff, because I've been, as you guys know, I've been chasing down the 10th Doctor Regeneration Pop Funko. You know the one I mean? That's he's in the Eccleston clothing.
Yes.
And been looking around for it, and somebody popped up on Twitter and said, "Well, it's not out yet." So that's why I haven't been able to find it. Because I thought it'd been out already, but it was just a bit scarce. So thank you to Bill Lane. His Twitter name is @CybermanBill. He said it's not out yet, but you can pre-order it. It's a GameStop exclusive, isn't it, in the US?
That's right. Yeah.
And he gave a link to a site, which is cool. So yeah, still on the lookout for that when it finally gets released.
Didn't because one of our other listeners, Sammy Satine, was it Sammy Satine?
Sammy on Facebook.
She sent us a link to a site as well, didn't she? With, can't remember if that was one of them or not. I think it was. I'm not sure, but K9 was on there, and
that's right.
It was it an Australian website?
It was, yeah. And incidentally, Bill, who sent me this link called popculture.com. Culture spelt CULTCHA. So culture. That's an Australian website.
Yeah, Pop Culture. I've heard of them. Yeah,
but Bill's in the US, so right. It's we're timey wimey, globally, all over the place at the minute. And actually, Bill did say to us actually that we should nip over to the Gallifrey 1 convention at some point in the US.
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? I'd love to do that.
And we have mentioned, not on the podcast, but we have briefly spoken about it. Yes, so money and time permitting, 1 year, we might do that.
I would love to do it. I think it'd be fantastic. I did slyly slip it into conversation with my other half the other day, because we'd been talking about it off before our last recording, hadn't we? And I was sort of so it was in the back of my mind, and somehow we got onto holidays and trips, and I was saying, that's wouldn't mind going to New York and having a look at all that, and maybe if there's a convention on, it would be good. But no, I'd love to do a US convention. They seem really big. There's been a lot of photos of now who is it? Peter Davison, Jenna Coleman, and Billy Piper. Have you seen these floating around on Twitter? The three of them. Obviously, there's been some convention going on, because I've seen people having pictures with the three of them and stuff.
Oh, okay, right.
I don't know what convention it is, but I was thinking, they always get like a lot of good guests over in the States. All the new series people tend to go there. So one day might make it over there. Would be good.
Yes, one day. Yes. So we might do that one day.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe. Rightio. Shall we land it and do the news? Because I think we've waffled for more than is necessary.
Land this baby.
Let's land it and we'll crack on. First up, we have actually Doctor Who did win an award recently. It wasn't an NTA. It's something a lot more prestigious.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot more sort of looked upon as a sign of quality and all that stuff. Yes. Website Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes?
The review website Rotten Tomatoes. You must have heard of it.
I have, yeah.
They've awarded Series 9 a Golden Tomato Award. Yes, and it's awarded to the series with the highest ratings based on reviews submitted to the site.
Now, just to clarify, this is a good thing, isn't it? Because I would associate Rotten Tomatoes with being... but it's a good thing. I assume a gold tomato is doubly good.
Yeah, so Rotten Tomatoes is an often sort of unofficial review guide to go upon. So, you get like the usual critic sites and magazines like Empire Magazine and some other websites that they have like these proper critics that will go and view stuff and give their somewhat questionable professional opinion on stuff. Whereas Rotten Tomatoes, everything is just the public. So everybody just chirps up with, their honest reviews on stuff. And so apparently Series 9 received an average rating of 4.5 out of 5. And received the very rare 100% positive rating from the approved critics through Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
So Series 9 had a belter over there. So a Golden Tomato Award.
There you go, Stephen Moffat. You see, that surely will put a smile on his face. I hope they've got a big gold tomato award, have they?
Well, I'm not sure how. I think I'm not sure if anyone goes anywhere to collect this golden tomato, or if it's a virtual one. I'm not sure, but it did beat Game of Thrones season 5, which is quite an achievement, seeing as that's like apparently the best program on TV ever, as it's been reviewed recently. But yes, so yeah. Good stuff.
That's excellent. Oh, I'm glad. Good to know. Yep. Okay, talking of awards, actually, our next bit of news is another award. This time it's been presented to former Doctor Who lead writer and executive producer, Russell T Davies. He's been presented with an Outstanding Contribution to Writing Award. This was at the Guild of Great British Awards that was held on the 18th, so a couple of days back, 18th of Jan.
The Writers Guild,
Writers Guild. So that is quite a prestigious award, isn't it? That is quite a good one to get. I should think Russell's pretty pleased with that. Yeah,
in all seriousness, that is quite an achievement. That one, because that's something that's decided upon and awarded by other writers, so his peers and people that it's not like the general public, like, oh my god, I can't believe he wrote that. This is like actual people who do this for a living, and they all decide and stuff. So it must be cool to have it, an award presented by other people who you're not necessarily in competition with, but other people that that have seen your work and can view it and comment on it from a professional level. It's a bit like I'm not really sure. It's a bit like doing something and having it judged by the general public who don't know the technical stuff. So it's a bit like, a director of one of the Doctor Who programs. It's a bit like a director putting a Doctor Who episode out there, and it's one thing to have it judged and commented in on and reviewed by the public, but it's another thing to have it reviewed and and awarded by other directors. So they would know things that we wouldn't know. So they would know things like how they put a certain scene together and how this was shot and how that was done. So it's the same thing really with the writers stuff. You know, all these guys, they all know the tricks of the trade and how you kind of, you know, earn your craft as a writer and stuff. So they know all that stuff that we don't necessarily pick up on as viewers.
Yeah.
So it must be very cool for him to get that. And apparently he was very, very, very pleased to get that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's a good, yeah. I should think he was. And I have to say, I mean, I know, you know, there are bits of Russell's tenure on Doctor Who that perhaps might come in for a bit of flack, but when you look at the amount of stuff this guy has written, and sort of overseen and everything, I mean, it is deserved, isn't it? I mean, you know, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Cucumber, Queer as Folk, Wizards and 8 versus Aliens. You know, he's got a good back catalogue there. And like I say, there may be bits that you think are better than others, but yeah, I think Russell's a pretty decent writer. I'd love him to come back and just write the odd episode for Who. You know, I think he'd be a bit like Moffat was when he was in charge of Who. I think he'd be good if he just sort of did the odd one now and again.
I would love that. I think we all would love that, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
I think there are some Who viewers that would be like, no, really wasn't a fan of his stuff. But in a lot of respects, I actually really like the RTD era, and I think most of me prefers it to the Moffat era.
Yeah, certainly as we revisit episodes, sort of ones that I think perhaps you know, weren't as good on a revisit. There's a real sort of it's got a different feel to it. Definitely got a different feel to it. So well done, Russell, on your award. We know you listen.
We know you're listening. Yeah, so well done, Birdie. Lastly in the news, it is some sad news, but we do need to recognise this guy for a very important reason. So Robert Banks Stewart has passed away at the age of 84. Yeah. And you might not recognise the name straight off the bat, but this guy is responsible for creating one of the best Doctor Who monsters that stood the test of time, really. So he came up with the story Terror of the Zygons back in 1975.
Yeah.
So it was out of his brain that the Zygons were born. And other than like the main monsters like Daleks and Cybermen and whatnot, the Zygons have actually made a successful comeback in newer Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Featuring in the Day of the Doctor and more recently the amazing two-parter from Series 9. So yeah, and he also went on to write The Seeds of Doom and invented the crinoid.
Seeds of Doom is, I mean, Terror Zygons is one of my favourites, but Seeds of Doom, I think, is one of my, I sometimes tout it as being one of my all-time favourites, actually. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
It is amazing, yeah. Love The Seeds of Doom. And so this guy's responsible for a couple of two of the best classic Who stories. Really, really good. And he had a cracking career as well. He wrote loads back in the 60s and 70s and stuff. He wrote scripts for The Sweeney, the original Avengers, Danger Man, loads of things. And so it's a shame he's passed away, but really, really good memories of his work that he did for classic Who. So.
Yeah, I gotta say, left behind two absolute gems there, didn't he? And I'm also a big fan of the Sweeney, so I love that he was in fact he's involved in that. I was thinking, it's really strange that the Zygons only made that one appearance in the classic series, isn't it? When you think back, I'm really surprised they didn't. I don't know. I can imagine them sort of working quite well with Colin Baker's Doctor. Actually, that would have been great to send the Sixth Doctor with the Zygons. But some great stuff there. So sad news. Sad news,
but good celebration of his work though. That the Zygons are still around. So some cracking stuff. Right, that's going to wrap for news. Rightio, Adam. Adam. You Kondo say what we review this week.
Kondo. Set the TARDIS controls for Karn because we are reviewing the Brain of Morbius.
The Time Lords destroyed Morbius for his crimes here on Karn.
There's something going on here, some dirty work. Time Lords are spineless parasites. Morbius offered them greatness once, but he was betrayed and rejected. They'll pay for that mistake, Kondo.
When it is learned that I, Morbius, have returned from the grave, my followers will rise in their millions.
Morbius is dead, Doctor. And you will join him very shortly.
Ooh. Oh, thank you, matron.
Yes, this week it's back to Tom Baker era and the Brain of Morbius. So back in 76.
76, eh?
You know, written by quote unquote Robin Bland.
Who's this Robin Bland then?
Who is this guy? Hey, who is it? So Terrence Dicks originally, and then a couple of rewrites by Robert Holmes, and directed by Christopher Barry. Not the Chris Barry that we know of, but a different Christopher Barry. Oh, yeah. And this is a four-parter. I think it's four-parter, isn't it? 25 minutes each.
It is. Yep. Yeah.
And it's the Doctor and Sarah Jane.
Yes, classic team.
Yes, for those of you who don't know. Story is the character Morbius was a renegade Time Lord, I guess, turned on the Time Lords, but was, I'm not sure if I remember correctly, he was supposedly killed. He was tracked down and supposedly killed. Yeah, thought dead, but his brain survived somehow, and ended up in the care of the crazy scientist guy Solon, who was one of the followers of the cult of Morbius, and has ambitions to rebuild him into a new body. Along the way, he captures like various other beings who have crash landed on the planet Karn, where this story is set. And has waited around for a very long time for a humanoid figure so he can complete the last bit of the puzzle, which is the head, to put the brain in. Also thrown in the mix is the Sisterhood of Karn, obviously, being on Karn. And they're very paranoid about the Time Lords in general because they think that they're there to capture the last bit of the elixir of life, which is seemingly running out at the moment. As is the Sacred Flame, blah, blah, blah.
Sacred Flame.
Yes, and it's a to and fro, really. It's a cat and mouse game between who's going to kill the Doctor first, or it's going to be the Sisterhood of Karn, or is it going to be Morbius to grab his head?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to beat around the bush too much on this, because I think people know our thoughts because we've spoken about it before. This is a cracker of a story.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love this one.
This is classic Who at its best, I would say.
Yeah.
It's got everything in there that just makes it such a joy to watch. The cast is like Tom Baker's on top form. Absolutely brilliant. Sarah Jane's even good in this one. The character Solon. Philip Maddock is brilliant. Kondo's really good, even as the bumbling Igor type assistant. Sisterhood of Karn are pretty good, actually.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So the supporting cast,
like Maren.
Yeah. So the cast is brilliant. The story is like it kind of leans on like the old Hammer horror Frankenstein-esque kind of
very much so
vibe. Yeah. So that's really, really cool. Wobbly sets, crappy sets, crappy creature effects and costume. It's all just fantastic.
It is.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, it all comes together. I always wondered why Terrence Dicks took his name off of it, because it is such a in my opinion and yours by the sounds of it, it's such a good story. So I always wondered, well, why did Terrence not want credit for it? But I watched the extras yesterday and it became quite clear it was nothing to do with the quality of the writing.
Right.
It was more the fact that he went on holiday and Philip Hinchcliffe went off the original idea that he'd got, that it was going to be a robot that was building a human. So Solon would have been a robot. And Hinchcliffe decided that they couldn't do that properly. It was going to look terrible. But because Terrence Dicks was on holiday and didn't want to be bothered, hadn't left any phone number or anything, Robert Holmes came in to make a few adjustments to the script.
Ah, right.
And when Terrence Dicks come back, Terrence said he went mad because it was, totally changed, and the robot had gone and had been replaced by a mad scientist. And basically Terrence said, well, this isn't my story anymore. So he was a little bit annoyed at the time. He says now it doesn't bother him, but he was quite annoyed at the time. So he just said to Robert Holmes, take my name off it and put it under some blander pseudonym. So he said he actually did laugh quite a lot when he actually saw it on screen for the first time, going out under the name Robin Bland, because he said it was just because literally Robert Holmes took it under. No, so Robin Bland, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's why. So yeah, I'm glad that it wasn't because he didn't think it was good, because I think it's a cracker.
Yes, absolutely, mate. It's just so good to watch, and it's also one of those episodes where once you've finished one of the episodes, whichever one it is, you have to watch the next one. It's a killer. I know you did this, mate, in the week. You watched the first 2 episodes one day or one evening.
Yeah.
And I think then you watched the other 2 the following day or something.
How did you know that?
Because you told me.
Did I?
You told me, yeah.
Oh, yes, I did. I thought
I'm not stalking you, mate.
I thought I'd left Skype on or something, and you just casually walking by, he's watching the other 2. Yeah, because I do sometimes watch them all in one go, but this week I had to watch 2 and then 2, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sitting outside your window peering through and seeing what you're watching. But yeah, that would have killed me, because on some classic Who, I can do that. I can watch a couple, leave it for a while and stuff. But for some reason, this one, I cannot leave it. I have to watch them. I have to watch them all the way through. And there's a few classic Who's that are like that.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of them. So that, I don't know how you did that. I don't know how you watched the first 2 and then left it, because then they're pretty good little cliffhangers as well.
They are, yeah.
They're not like big epic moments, but they are pretty good. Like I think one of them, Sarah Jane's just about to be captured by the monster thing,
the giant claw,
the giant crab claw thing, which is really good because she plays. We'll come on to it a bit later, but she plays the blind thing quite well, I thought.
Yeah.
So that's a good cliffhanger. She can't see anything, and this creature's just about to capture her and do whatever, and then it just cuts, and it's like
Yeah.
So yeah, cliffhanger's pretty good. What did you think, before we get on to like the details of like cast and stuff, what did you think to like the overall just feeling of this story and the vibe and the pacing and stuff?
I think the pacing's really good. I think it moves along really well. It's it's got a good dark, I mean, it's all, the whole thing's studio bound, isn't it? And I think you got to sort of overlook that a little bit, because I do remember the first time I watched it thinking, because it starts with that set. And it's very, very clearly a set. I mean, it's almost a bit two-dimensional, isn't it? But yeah, I think it's got a great atmosphere to it. Let's put it that way. Even if the sets and that are a bit basic, and I mean, they've turned the lights down, so it's quite dark. But yeah, I think it's got a really good atmosphere to it. One thing I did note at the start is, doesn't the TARDIS prop look battered to hell?
It does.
It looks absolutely. Wow! It just looks like it's been through the wars. I did look in the production notes, and it said it says in the production notes on this that that's the original TARDIS prop.
Right.
Obviously, they've altered a few little bits on it over the years, but I can't believe they were still using the original prop, which might explain why it looks so battered. And in the next story, Seeds of Doom, it did collapse right at the end of the story on poor Liz Sladen's head. So it wasn't until the following story that they actually got a new prop. TARDIS prop. So,
yes.
But yeah, I really thought, when it lands, it looks like it would collapse. I mean, like I'd be scared to shut the door on it.
Yeah. Well, there's right at the beginning, there's a scene where the Doctor's quite grumpy. He's playing like a little petulant child, and Sarah Jane wants to go off and explore, and he's got the hump about being dragged to this planet. He thinks the Time Lords have grounded him again. So he's really grumpy, isn't he? And there's a bit where he looks over at the TARDIS and starts giving it a wipe with his scarf.
That's right.
And you think to yourself, you're going to need more than that, mate, to sort that out. Because you're right, it looks completely just battered and bruised.
So it's been repainted about 1,000 times. And,
The sign's wonky on it as well. And it's just, that's... if there ever was an example of budget restraints, that's it right there for you.
I just couldn't believe it that they were still using the original prop. I was thinking, surely not, because what's this, 76? Oh, I suppose it's not actually as long as I thought, but it's still quite a long time, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, in terms of trucking it around from studio to studio and a couple of outside shots and all that lot, they didn't really take that good care of the sets and props back then, because if you look at any of the episodes up to, well, probably up to like the McCoy era, I would say. If you look at when they do the TARDIS interior shots, the walls, they're meant to be like white, aren't they? Like an off-white colour and greys and stuff.
Yeah.
But they're all scuffed around the bottom, and the paint job's not very good, and it's chipped and buggered, and so they didn't really take care of anything back there, did they? I think they probably just threw it on the back of a van, trucked it around, and over time just got no good.
It does look like it's been through the wars though, which is quite cool. I was just thinking in the series nowadays, since the series come back, we've had quite a few different TARDIS variations, haven't we? So they don't, obviously it's got a bigger budget now, but anyway, getting back to what you're saying, atmosphere brilliant, sets and that dark and gloomy. I suppose a little, they look a bit dated, I guess you could say. They are of their time.
Yes.
But I think they work. I mean, I love Solon's, what would you call it? We don't know if it's a castle or house or laboratory, whatever it is.
Yeah, it just looks like a reasonably sized house for the outgoing bachelor. It does look like it has got like a castle vibe to it, and it looks kind of like what we mentioned earlier about this having like a Hammer horror kind of feel to it. That the set that they use for his house or castle, whatever you want to call it, it does look a bit grim and stuff, but it kind of adds to the whole mood of the story, because you have it's always quite stormy out, and it's got the whole fake lightning and all that stuff. But it is weird. Does it look like a bungalow, or is it like a? I'm not sure.
I don't know. We don't see the much of the rooms. I do love the little room downstairs where the Morbius's brain is kept in that jar.
Oh, his lab.
It's a lab. Yeah, it's all very dark and grimy and horrible. But no, I think it's quite good. I think the sets look much better when they're in the dark, because there's one scene, I think, where Sarah Jane goes for a wander later, and it's daytime, and it's really brightly lit, and it doesn't look very good. So I think, I think when they're in the dark, they look a bit better, and it's definitely got a bit more creepy atmosphere about it. Yeah,
and you can tell that it was all inside as well, because at the beginning, when they first land and then they go off on a wander after they discover that headless insectoid thing,
the mutt.
Is that what it's called? The mutt?
The mutt.
Oh, a mutt, yeah. It starts to rain, doesn't it? And it's so funny, because what they've done is they've put this rain effect which goes across the front of the screen, and then they just pretend. So he's got like this battered old umbrella.
Oh, yeah.
She puts her coat over, and they're not getting wet at all. They're bone dry. But the effect that they've done is they've put like this rain that goes across the front of the screen, and you can tell it's at the front, and then all the camera work's behind it. So it's creative TV making at its best, really.
Definitely. I was thinking, actually, do you think that's an ad lib? When Solon opens the door and they're stood there, and like you said, the rain's all pouring down. He's got that umbrella, and he says, "Could you spare a glass of water?" Do you think that's a Bakerism?
It does sound like it.
He did have a habit of adding in these little one-liners. There is some great little one-liners in this, actually. There's some nice little bits of humour just scattered about this four-parter.
Especially from Tom.
Yeah.
Because I think Sarah Jane tries to be a bit comedic at the beginning to try and pull him out of his mood. But yeah, throughout the episode, he does come out with some nice little, especially when he's in the most dire of situations as well. Like they're just about to burn him and stuff, and he's sorted out the flame, and just before they're about to do that, the flame comes back on, doesn't it? And he says something like, "It's just soot, you see, no charge."
Yeah. And also he keeps calling Ma and Matron as well, doesn't he? Matron, and there's some nice subtle bits from Sarah Jane, actually. There's a bit when when Solon first sees Baker, and he says, oh, what a magnificent head, or whatever like that. And then he says, oh, really? I've had several, and there was an old grey model before this. And then Sarah Jane, no, he says, some people liked it.
Yeah. And
Sarah Jane's like, I did. But it's really subtly done, really quiet. And,
yeah. No,
like
it's
little
cool.
moments like that.
Yeah. So story, pacing, really, really good. Atmosphere, really, really good. Sets, very bad, but that makes it very good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I wrote sets, what did I say? A bit drab, but kind of charming in their own way.
Yeah.
What did you think of the direction, though? Because we said the atmosphere is good, which it is.
Yeah.
And this was directed by Christopher Barry, who's a very well thought of director in Who. I will be honest and say there are times, and it's probably down to time restraint, but I did find it a little bit flatly directed at times in terms of the way it was shot, because the pacing's good. It moves along at a cracking little pace. Mm-hmm. But I don't know about you, but I did think there were bits of it where it was just a little bit shoot, point, and film. There's not a great deal of... as I say, it's probably down to the restraints at the time and what they had to use, like the sets. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he probably couldn't film it from another angle, but if you look at sort of... if you look at sort of Douglas Camperfield style of directing, where it's, you know what I mean, very low shots and he's trying different angles. But this is very much sort of a bit like a play, which is, you know, what Doctor Who was like at the time. Do you know what I mean? Sort of very much just cameras filming what's going on, and it's all very much one shot and that sort of thing. So I wasn't, that's the only, and it is a very minor criticism, if you like. I just found it sometimes a little bit flatly directed.
Yeah, I do agree with you, and I think that's because Chris Barry was a very traditional director, because he goes way back. He directed the Daleks, William Hartnell.
Yes.
So he's very experienced, but he's like, I don't want to use the phrase, but he was an old school director.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was, and it's very much his style of directing as well. Because if you look at the Demons, the Pertwee story, that has got a reasonable amount of action going on in that story. However, you can tell that it's his direction, because it's still got that same, like point and shoot. There's no crazy angles. There's nothing crazy going on. So he's definitely got a style which is very simple. It's very minimal kind of direction. It's like set the scene up and follow the actor, and the camera always seems to be at shoulder level as well.
Yes,
and eye level, and maybe that's just. Yeah, I mean, there is an argument to say that in some stories that's all that's needed, because you don't want fancy direction to get in the way of good storytelling and character progression and stuff. But I do agree with you. I think this could have benefited from a little bit more of a bit more creativity, if you like, in the direction. It would have been quite cool. I mean, the only sort of outside of the norm camera angles we had is like some of the Sisterhood of Karn shots. There's like these nice sweeping shots where the camera's up quite high and you can see the group of what they're doing, and then it comes down a little bit and sweeps around. But other than that, there's not a great deal going on. I mean, the pacing's very good. The way it was edited and stuff was all great, and you know, the pace is good, but it does feel a little bit flat direction wise. I do agree.
I think you've hit you've hit the right word. You've hit the nail on the head there. It's traditional. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it hasn't got much flair to the direction. And as I say, it's not. I don't mean to criticise Christopher Barry, because he was a good director. But yeah, I think you've summed it up perfectly there. It's very traditional in the way it's directed. Whereas, you know, when you've got like the actual creature when he's going mad at the end and stuff. Yeah, you know, there's no sort of attempt made to sort of shoot it from below and make it, you know, look like it's coming at you, sort of thing. You know, there's none of that. It's just very much like you said, shoot and point. So yeah, it's still good though. Still very good. Yeah,
no real complaints really. So story wise and stuff, really just very enjoyable to watch. If you've not, and it's probably one of those stories that you could recommend to somebody that's not watched any classic Who before. It's probably one of those stories that you could recommend to get into, especially if they said, I want to check out some Tom Baker classic Who. What do you recommend, other than the usual ones that people say, like Genesis and pyramids and stuff like that, I would quite happily recommend this one. It's a really good little isolated story. Tom Baker, like we said, we'll come on to, Tom Baker's really good. So story-wise, great. Really cool. Let's move on to casting. What did you think to The Sisterhood?
The Sisterhood. I like The Sisterhood. I really like Maren, the lead, the old hag.
Okay.
I really like Maren. I first watched this, the old hag, when I first watched this, I don't know how old it would have been, but it was an old VHS copy, and they'd it was like a condensed version. They'd cut half of it out, so it was a bit bizarre. So I didn't actually get to see this properly until quite some time later. And bizarrely, at the time, as I said, I would have been younger, so I found the sisterhood bits very boring as a sort of kid or teenager. Whereas now I really enjoy them because I just love Mara, and I think she's very convincing as this old mystic crone. Do you know what I mean? I think she gives a performance that I can really believe in. And yeah, I mean, really, apart from the other woman whose name I don't know, the other one that we get to sort of, who has a few lines, we don't really get to sort of meet any of the other sisters, do we? They mostly just go, daff, 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 daff.
There's one, isn't there? There's one of the younger sisters.
One other one.
She has a fair few lines, but I don't...
because I thought she was the one that got killed, but it wasn't her. There was just someone else. But
yeah.
Does the makeup not remind you a lot of, in Fires of Pompeii, those guys that were in the...
oh, right, yeah.
Does the makeup not remind you an awful lot of that, or not? Because I was thinking that yesterday.
Yes, it does.
But I love the way they're all made up in the red and the cloaks and the gold and all that. It looks very good. But yeah, out of the two that we get to see, I suppose the one that we can't remember a name, her acting is perhaps a little bit...
the one who opens her eyes really wide randomly.
Yes.
Randomly, yeah.
I think she's good, but she's not...
They don't actually give any other character names, do they? Other than like, what would you call her? Like the Grand High Witch, whatever her name is. What is it?
What, Maren?
Maren, yeah. So what's her kind of status? You don't really... She's not
what she is.
Yeah, but...
Did you not like Maren? Did you not think she was really good?
No, I thought she was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was really good. She had this... they did use a lot of makeup, didn't they, to age her a lot. But she still had this like old mind about her sort of thing. She played that very well. She had this, you could tell, I don't know whether she was on her last legs, but you could tell that she'd seen a bit of the world.
Now, it's funny you say that, because I thought she might be, because I know in this she does sacrifice herself because she's, supposed to be really, really old, isn't she? And I thought perhaps she was on her last legs as an actress, but no, because she's in the extras, and she looks she looks old, but she looks younger than she does in the Brain of Morbius, which is quite bizarre. And it's not through surgery. It's not like one of these where you can tell they can't move their face anymore. She just looks like a lady that's grown old very gracefully.
Right.
But yeah, I was surprised. I was thinking, so maybe there was some very good makeup in that, because she really does sort of come across as quite an old person.
She was made up quite heavily. Very wrinkly and all that jazz.
But I love the difference between, when she's with Tom and she's sort of playing it very straight and angry, and we are the sisterhood and I know what you're doing. And then Tom's just being the foolishly going, sorry, matron, what? And all that. And, he's really playing up to it and being comedic. And I really like that, because she's just having none of it.
Yeah, you're right. She plays it very straight and very, very intense.
Yeah.
There's no messing about, And the chemistry between her and Tom Baker is great, because he's just like a carry-on movie in comparison. It's really good, the chemistry.
Yeah.
So I'd like to have known some of the character names for the other sisters, but they just don't really do a lot. Really, they just sort of chant a lot and follow each other around, and with the exception of that one that's always looks like she's someone shining a light in her eyes. I thought they played a good purpose, and that's another classic bunch of characters that have carried through quite well to a
new one,
to New Who. I didn't really think too much of them in the series 9 finale.
No,
I found them a bit of a pointless include, but they were pretty good in the McGann minisode that went out online. They played quite an important role in the Doctor's regeneration.
Yeah, because I like the fact I did like it when we saw them again in The Magician's Apprentice when the Doctor was hiding out on Karn.
Yeah,
but yeah, I agree with you. When they came back in the Heaven Sent, was it Hellbent? Yeah. I don't know quite why they were included. They seem really powerful in the Brain of Morbius, though. Like in terms of they managed to kidnap the Doctor through is it telekinesis? No, not telekinesis. But they've got this power that they can actually move objects from one place to another, don't they? So they actually transport the Doctor and the TARDIS by using mind power. Yeah, which is pretty nifty thing to be able to do, I would say.
Yeah,
which we don't see them do in the new series.
Yeah, there is a word for it. It's not telekinesis, is it? Anyway,
no.
But yeah, they do come across as a small but very powerful bunch of gals.
Because Solon's terrified when he actually stumbles into their lair, isn't they? Don't you think that bit's hilarious? He's really like, oh, Mara, and sorry, he's absolutely terrified of them, and I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. And also I didn't really mind, the set that they used for the Sisterhood.
Yeah,
I thought that was mostly good, but there's one prop that they must have. I don't know. The thing that opens where they've got the elixir in and the flame.
It's the big lock you're talking about, isn't it? Surely they could have nipped down to whatever hardware store and paid a couple of quid to buy a proper lock. Come on, because she puts the key in a hole, and it doesn't. It's just, and you could forgive it if that's all you saw, but when she opens it out, and the door opens, whatever it is, you can see that there's no lock on the other side, so it's just a hole. I know.
It's like you could have bought a lock. Come on.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things you got to overlook.
I did have a little chuckle at that, I must admit.
There are a few bits in this which I chuckle at, which probably aren't supposed to be funny. To be fair, there are a couple of bits. It's a bit like the bit where the brain falls on the floor at the end, which is, in a way, it's quite horrific, but it also makes me laugh. I think it's just because it's going mad. And whenever that brain goes mad in this story, it cracks me up. Kind of reminds me of me when I'm in a bad mood. Like, she said you, didn't she? Yes, she did. It's like going mad. It's just this it's like a spoiled child in a jar. It's just brilliant. I love it.
That's often the case, though, isn't it? With classic Who, there's bits that you laugh at that wasn't intentionally funny, but you've got to have a little chuckle. And that lock, well, it's not even a lock, is it? It's just a hole. It looks like a donut. Like a donut, you just put a key in, and she doesn't even make the effort to make it seem like she's unlocking something. She just slowly puts it in and twists around an invisible thing.
Yeah,
and that's it. It's hilarious. But anyway,
but there are some bits in this that are intentionally funny. Like Solon, despite being this mad nutter, he's got some really nice little, very subtle comic bits, isn't he? Like when he's talking to Kondo and that, he's like, go away. And he's just, there are bits where Solon's quite comical, and there's almost a bit, I think it's in episode 3 or 4, where he's quite full of himself and almost a bit like jovial, isn't he? Do you know the bit I mean? He's sort of it's when he thinks he's sort of everything's going his way, and he sort of turns from being very stressed and aggravated to being almost quite flippant. Like, when he goes and talks to Morbius in the jar, and he's really full of himself, and he's sort of making jokes, and he's like, sorry, I couldn't resist, and all that. And I love that when he's real sort of like confident, and the wind totally gets knocked out of him.
I think that's the bit where he sends Condor off to give the Sisterhood a note to trap the Doctor.
Yeah,
he's just his eggs are all in the basket. It's almost like he's had a few beers, he's relaxed. Yeah, and nothing can spoil his mood, really.
Nothing can stop me now.
Yeah, you're right. He does have a few funny lines. Let's talk about those guys, actually. Solon and Kondo.
Yeah.
Philip Maddock. Just plays that just brilliantly.
I think he's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. I love Philip Maddock in this. I think, if anything, I think he steals the show. I absolutely love every minute that he's on screen.
He's brilliant.
He's absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
He I don't know what it is about him. He has this ability to, I think what you were saying a minute ago, he has this ability to make you laugh. But I don't think that's the intent. Because there's some cracking times where he's so horrible to Kondo.
Oh, I know.
You know, the way he just dismisses him all the time. And the way he does it, he just goes over the top with it. I think there's, I can't remember word for word, I'm really sorry. But instead of saying something like, you know, just leave for a minute, or, you know, you're annoying me, just leave. He goes on these little mini rants, like, you sort of, you unintelligent, stupid oaf of a creature, and, you know, stuff like that. He just goes on these little mini rants. And I think, you know, it's almost like you're cheering for Kondo to, you know, to stand up for himself at some point. And he does at the end.
He does,
But he does put up with a lot of cussing. Like, it's not just a typical butler sort of thing, like, you're dismissed. He really does have, like, he really goes at him a few times, doesn't he? And he hasn't really done anything completely wrong. He's just not moving fast enough, or he hasn't said the right thing, or he hasn't, you know. It's a bit like when your missus has got the hump, or your other half has got the hump, and you can't say the right thing. You know, that time, and you're just like, oh, no, I don't know what to say here. I know I'm going to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like that relationship where you can't do anything right, really. And it's weird because Solon, you can tell he's frustrated a lot because he's waited around for donkey's years for like a human figure to appear on Karn. He's just fed up with chopping up, you know, other sorts of, you know, alien beings and stuff. So when the Doctor finally lands in his lap, he's, you know, he's ready to rock and roll, and Kondo's just, I don't know, it just cracks, like, the way that Kondo is as well, he's very, you know, this simpleton kind of nature. He's like,
very sort of Igor, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think they played that intentionally, didn't they, to give him like it's very much the Frankenstein and Igor thing, isn't it? Like the mad, crazy scientist and the simpleton, you know, trodden down sidekick kind of thing. And just the way that Solon speaks to him, it cracks me up. And I know it shouldn't. I know it's quite serious, and you know, we should be rooting for Kondo. But yeah, Philip Maddock, man, he nailed this. Absolutely.
I agree. It's funny because, like you said, it's great when Kondo finally sticks up for himself, because Solon is so horrible to poor old Kondo, and yet Kondo clearly cares for him, because there's a bit towards the middle where he's Solon's sort of going to go into Maran's lair or something, and Kondo's like, no, you know, bad, you know, sisterhood will kill and all this, and so he clearly cares for Solon, even though Solon treats him like dirt. So when he finally does stand up to him at the end, is it because he realizes he's got his arm or something? Kondo's arm?
Yeah.
He finally snaps, doesn't it? And you kind of, like you said, you're really rooting for Kondo. Yeah. And then he gets shot in quite a gruesome way, doesn't he? Poor old Kondo gets blown to bits by that gun. It's quite sad.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the scenes where you finally, you kind of had your suspicions anyway, but it's finally, you know, shown to us that Solon has absolutely no care or anything at all towards Kondo. He's completely expendable. He doesn't care for him at all, because he's already lied to him, hasn't he, and lopped his arm off. And lied to him and really horrible to him, and then when he starts standing up for himself, he just shoots him. So you do feel sorry for Kondo, absolutely, and he takes a little bit of a shine, doesn't he, to Sarah Jane as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
which is quite sweet, and so
it's quite a contradiction, because he was ready to kill them both at the start. It's interesting that Sarah Jane tips her wine away. You know, I always wonder sort of what makes her suspicious, because the Doctor's, you know, down in it, and he's not holding back, and obviously gets knocked out. And I really like that bit, because I like the way she then pretends that she's actually been drugged when she hasn't.
All right, yeah, that's clever.
But the good thing about Condor is he's sort of playing this Egon character, which is so likable. Like, he's not over the top or cringy or bad in the way he performs it, and he's, like you said, he's under all this makeup and wig and stuff, which looks horrific, but but he's a real likable character, isn't he? And well sort of acted by, who was it? Colin Fay. Yeah. Whereas Philip Maddock had been in Doctor Who a couple of times before, early on. I think he's in the War Games. And what's the other one he's in?
Was it the Croton? No.
No, isn't it?
He's in a couple, isn't he?
Oh, well, that's going to bug me. Yeah, he's in a couple, and and obviously I always think of him as being in the Dalek Invasion Earth movie. He's in the 2150 AD, at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Gets blown to smithereens in that shed. So he's got a bit of a history with Who. He's also in, there's another Tom Baker one, which is really rubbish. Well, not rubbish, but it's not one I particularly enjoyed. The Power of Kroll, I think it is. Right. Which is a drab story. So such a shame because, like you said, he gives such a brilliant performance in this. When he's in it later on, I almost feel sorry for him because he's given such a mediocre role compared to this brilliant character of Solon in this. And he really, he grabs it by the horns and gives it everything, doesn't he?
Yeah, he was in the Crotons and
the Crotons,
the War Games, but he plays it fantastic. Though he's got this, I think he just nails the whole evil, crazy scientist, and I think for the most part they could have written it fairly flat and just have him be like that all the time. But there are times where he gets put under pressure from Morbius, and he does seem to, he does get quite emotional about stuff, and he does have a chance to come out of just the typical evil, cackling scientist role and play a bit of a, when he goes down into the lab and Morbius is absolutely going to town on him.
Love that.
And he's trying to justify and explain why he can't just fix it. He has to do it the right way and all that stuff. So, Philip Maddock, really, really good. Really makes this story come.
Do you know what cracks me up about that bit? You're saying about when he's trying to explain it.
Yeah.
Then Morbius thinks that he's been a fool, doesn't he? He's like, of course, they've tracked me down. They've come to get me. And then he tells him to get that helmet that he's made for the head. He's just got it lying around in a bin. He just opens up the bin and pulls out this. Yeah. This it's a weird. It looks like a fishbowl with two rattles stuck to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which I always used to think looked dreadful. I must admit, when I watched this, I used to think, a bit like you were saying about the lock.
Yeah.
I used to think, oh no, that really lets it down. That they could have done better than that. But it's one of those things. Over time, I've just grown to kind of love it. But it does look bad. I mean, it doesn't look great, but it kind of again has a sort of charm about it, and it's of the time. But it just cracks me up that he just gets it out the bin.
Yeah, it's not a very sterile working environment if you're going to be putting body parts in stuff. It's been in the bin, for God's sake. So those guys, fantastic. So Morbius, who thought that it was Davros?
Davros?
Yes, because doesn't the voice of Morbius, before you actually see the brain in the jar, sound just like Davros?
Especially when he's going crazy. Yeah, it does a bit. Yeah, when he's losing it does sound a bit like angry Davros. Yeah.
But the guy who played the voice of Morbius, was it Michael Spice?
Michael Spice
did a pretty good job. He had that same, very similar vibe to Davros actually, where just losing his cool every 5 minutes and bellowing at people and all that stuff. So they played that pretty well, I thought. We don't actually get to see him. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Michael Spice in the suit.
No, it was Stuart Fell, stunt guy who was in the monster suit, I think. Yeah.
So we had two versions, really, didn't we? We had the Morbius who was just the brain in the jar, who was, and I wouldn't have stood for that.
No?
If I was Solid and I was getting this brain just barking orders at me and going completely nuts, I would have shut that down pretty quick. I'd have been like, look, I can push you off this table at any second, mate. So cool it. And then we had the second version where he's actually, the brain's in the fishbowl, and he's wandering around with the claw, the crab claw, and Kondo's arm and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So did you? Yeah. So yeah. I mean, the Morbius lines I thought were pretty good, and I think it was more a credit really to Philip Maddock's acting really that brought that stuff to life, because it must be difficult, because I don't know if they did it on set the audio for Morbius. I'm not sure if they did that as an effect on set or if it was recorded afterwards, just audio.
It sounds like it was played in live, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Either way, it would have been quite difficult for Philip Maddock to try and get an emotional response from a fake brain in a jar. So I thought that whole scene in the lab and stuff was really well done. And again, that's just Philip Maddock. He just plays it so well, even when he's having an argument with a jar.
I would not have been able to keep a straight face.
Exactly, yeah,
honestly.
So really cool. And then the monster itself.
What does Sarah describe it as? Because it's brilliant.
I
wrote this down. I'll have to find it.
The monster itself, the suit.
Butcher's leftovers.
Butcher's leftovers. Yeah. The suit itself and the monster, I thought wasn't too bad, considering this was back in the 70s. It wasn't too bad. It really was just the plastic fishbowl. I mean, like you said, it does have a charm about it now. But it's just, it's got like these little fake wires and stuff, and and the movement was very restricted as well. He couldn't really walk properly. He had to kind of go sideways, like wide stance, like that kind of thing. And I thought it was pretty well done overall. That monster, I think it could have been. I don't know. What would you have been able to have done with the budget? I mean, they got the crab claw on there, and
I think it's just the fishbowl. It's not the fishbowl. I think it's just the two eyes. It's the two rattles
that protrude
they
out.
are. Yeah. Because I think actually, in some ways, it might have been more effective if they'd have just had the brain in the jar. I think it is literally just those two eyes sticking out that make it look a bit comical, if you like. Because when it's going mad without, out of control, it's not too bad. Funny enough, one of the things I really like is when he's in the jar. And he's speaking. They got this sort of stretched out piece of skin or vocal cord or something.
Oh yeah,
you just sort of see flapping in the wind when he's going mad, which is a real simple idea, but I actually think there's something really eerie about that. I think I actually prefer that.
Yeah, it is,
but
definitely.
I do think it's just the eyes that make it look a bit silly. Yeah, personally.
Yeah.
I do wonder what the doctors, how he smokes, he puts that when they get trapped in the room at the end and he sort of smokes them out. That sends the vapor up to knock out the cyanide. Yeah. I'm not sure of the logic of that plan, because how did he know? Because for all he knew, how did he know that was going to bring Morbius down into the basement? Or I suppose there wasn't really many options, maybe, but that's the only thing I thought. Well, how does he know that's going to knock Solon out, but bring Morbius down? How did he even know that Morbius was not in pieces on the table? If you know what I mean.
Yeah. That's interesting thought. Yeah,
I know, because at the first I thought that's a good plan, and I was thinking I'm not sure actually, because there's so many ways that plan could have failed. But like I said, I guess they didn't have many options, and they're locked in a room.
True.
Yeah.
And did you like the mental face-off between Morbius and the Doctor? That was quite a cool scene where, because at this point, because when Solon first inserts the brain into the creature's body in the fishbowl, I don't think he's quite finished properly, because he just runs around in this frantic sort of gurgling craziness.
Yeah.
And it's not until later on in the story that I think he corrects it, and then Morbius can speak properly and has got his wits about him.
Oh, that's right.
And there's a bit where they have I think the Doctor describes it as Time Lord wrestling or something. It's like a mind.
He does. That's right. Time Lord wrestling, mind bending conquest.
Yeah, it's like Thumb Wars, but with like mind powers. And we have those cool little flashbacks where the previous Doctor's faces have come through. As the Doctor's kind of going through the motions. But then we see, quite interestingly, all the different regeneration faces from Morbius as well. Well,
yeah, this is what I assume, because there's a lot of, this has caused a bit of controversy over the years, because people think that that's the Doctor. they're saying, well, okay, so once we get past William Hartnell, we see all these other faces,
Yeah.
which are all actually, they're all people behind the scenes in Doctor Who, aren't they? There's Christopher Barry right at the end. Robert Banks Stewart's in there, actually, we mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Philip Hinchcliffe, Douglas Camfield. So there's all these people from behind the scenes. But yeah, a lot of people say, you know, what's that about? Because, you know, is this the Doctor? So wasn't William Hartnell the first Doctor? Are these previous incarnations? I've always just assumed that they're Morbius.
They are, yeah.
Yeah. I never quite understand why that's, you know, become such a big thing over the years. But there might be a reason for it. Somebody out there might want to write in and slam us down. But yeah, I've just assumed it's Morbius that we see, not the Doctor. Because we do see his sculpt up in Solon's front room, don't we? We see that brilliant sculpt of Morbius's head.
Yeah.
So we know what he looks like. So yeah, I just assume it's Morbius. Yeah.
I think it is, because I think during that mind battle as well, doesn't Morbius say something like, how long have you lived, Doctor? How many? Or something. So I think it's like a battle of...
It's not made exactly clear how that works, is it? But yeah, we get the gist, I suppose.
Yeah, but I think I'm 99% sure all those faces that we see are Morbius's previous incarnations. Because he was a Time Lord. He was I think he was a Time Lord in the High Council or something.
I'm just looking, actually, it might have been, I'm just looking on Wikipedia, because it does say on there that these are followed by 8 previously unseen faces intended to represent incarnations preceding the first Doctor. So maybe in the script it was sort of written that these were the Doctor, but I think, if you want to get round that, you could just say they were Morbius.
Yeah, I think that's a better way as well, because if that's the case, why didn't because otherwise it creates like an invisible wall. Because why wouldn't the Doctor know about his previous incarnations before William Hartnell?
Yeah,
and why wouldn't he use them in that mind battle? You know, so I think it makes more sense for those to be Morbius's previous faces.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm pretty sure there's thousands of Who fans that are that will argue about that for quite a long time. But I would say for the story, it makes more sense for them to be Morbius.
Why has he got one of those mind-bending battle machines just lying around?
Well,
because it's very convenient that it's just there.
You never know when you need one.
Well, I suppose so. Must get one of those.
Yeah, look good. Okay, let's... and just... we were talking about things that are just charming but are awful.
Yeah.
The scene at the end where the Sisterhood of Karn are chasing the monster out onto the cliffs and stuff. It's a really funny bit where you can tell that he's going to fall over the cliff. You can see that coming. And the stunt guy who does it, it's not his fault, but the stunt guy, who was it? Stuart Fell. He tumbles off the cliff and then bumps into the camera.
Yes.
So you can
see the claw come up.
Yeah, you can tell that he's dived off only about 4 foot. And then when the camera cuts and it's the Sisterhood of Karn's point of view, it's like 1,000-foot chasm. That it's like an old Bugs Bunny kind of cartoon thing where his body's just disappearing slowly. They probably should have reshot the bit where he stumbles off, because he kind of bumps next to the camera and you see his claw come up. So he's only there, but when it cuts, he's like, like miles up.
So there's a few little bits, isn't there, in this like that? Like you said, you sort of think that kind of show the constraints they were under at the time. Yeah.
So I did have a little chuckle at that bit, I'll be honest. That was quite cool. Right. The Doctor and Sarah Jane.
The Doctor and Sarah Jane.
Tom Baker probably at one of his best, I would say. Yes,
I would agree with you. Yeah, I was going to say, I think Tom's firing on all cylinders at this point. Yeah, I really do. And I love the pairing of the Doctor and Sarah Jane. I think they just work off each other nicely. I think Tom's on fine form in this. Really, really good. Great with the one-liners.
Yep.
Great when it needs to be serious. Can't fault his Doctor at all at this point. Yeah. And same for Sarah Jane. I think she's really cool. I think she's, like you mentioned earlier about the blindness, I think she's quite convincing that she's blind. And I do love how Solon is so devious to Patella that so awful of him, says to the Doctor, no chance. No, she's never going to see again, knowing full well that she will. That effect of the ring when she gets blinded, we were saying about the budget constraints and effects.
Yeah.
It's very, very simple, but quite effective, I thought. I actually really quite like that. I think it's because it's slowed down. I think it's really, really good little moment.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yep.
But yeah, Sarah Jane, Tom Baker, Liz Sladen, the Doctor, fantastic. I just love them in this. Yeah,
it's a good pairing, and I think I like the way that we have a few different emotional states from those as well. It's quite comical at the beginning when they first land on Karn. You've got the Doctor who's clearly very miffed that he thinks the Time Lords have grounded him. And then you've got Sarah Jane, who's not really bothered about that. She just wants to go and explore and stuff. And he's just sitting there on the rock. He's like a little kid and he's playing with his yo-yo. And she even says to him, you're going to come and look around. He's like, no. He plays that so well. And then moments later, we're into like detective mode straight away when they find the Mutt. That's right, isn't it? The Mutt.
Yeah, the Mutt, beheaded.
Yep. And then as we get on through the story and we find Solon and Kondo and the Sisterhood, the Doctor goes from these really cool little serious moments to these brilliant little funny one-liners. And then you got Sarah Jane, who is... Because there are a few Doctor Who stories where she doesn't really do a lot. There are some stories where she follows the Doctor around, she has a few screams, but she doesn't really do a great deal. But I thought in this one, she has a bit more to do.
Yeah.
So, and she plays the blind bits really, really well, because I think you have to be fairly good to play a blind character. It's not as easy as it looks.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So she does that really well, and then, and just the overall. I mean, I really like the John Pertwee and Liz Sladen coupling. I thought they were very good. But there's something about the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane. They've got a cool chemistry.
Yeah.
So the pair of them just absolutely brilliant in this one.
I agree with you,
Really
mate.
good.
There is something, and I've watched this a few times over the years. There is something at the end which I've never ever noticed before, which is really bizarre. And I only noticed it because it mentioned it in the production subtitles, which I had on at the time.
Right.
And that is that the TARDIS disappears in a flash, like a firework.
Yes, it does.
Which is really odd.
We don't see it again.
We never see it again.
No.
But it's that kind of a reference, because he sort of says, light the touch paper and go or something, and then the TARDIS go. It's odd. I've just never ever noticed that before, which is really weird.
Yeah, it is strange. I mean, I noticed when I first watched this story, I noticed it but didn't think anything of it.
Yeah, I think I've just overlooked it before now, just not sort of thought anything of it. It's only because, like I said, the production notes are on. I thought, does it? Don't remember that. And then, yeah, it does. It's a weird thing. I think it's just a little in joke, isn't it? That they kind of threw in that things that nowadays, if they did, people would, fill forums discussing. But back then, they kind of were very...
Yeah.
Things like that didn't really matter so much, did it? It was a bit like the thing we were saying about the Doctor with the faces, and they didn't sort of worry too much about these little details back then, or weren't as worried about it. Like I said, nowadays everything is analysed so much that, a bit like the TARDIS landing in the rainbow that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago. Like, people will say, well, why? What is that? What? So, but it's just a fun little thing that I noticed at the end, which I've never really thought of before.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, I'd never even thought about it. I just assumed that different materializations and dematerialize. I think I was just expecting to see them just pop up like that throughout Classic Who, but we don't see that again. So it must be like a little in joke, like you say. But it's quite cool though. It's certainly better than the rainbow materialization.
It's definitely better than the rainbow. Yeah.
And did you find any? Did you find anything in this particularly risque in terms of gruesome stuff or anything like that? There's an interesting fact that went on at the time. So when this first went out, a lady called Mary Whitehouse.
Yes.
Do you know that name? Yeah.
Oh, I do.
She complained, saying that this story contains some of the sickest and most horrific material seen on children's television. And
I suppose for back then there might have been a few bits. Mary Whitehouse, criticised a lot of Doctor Who back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just note. I mean, in my notes that I did write that episode 3 they do ramp up the. What did I put? They do ramp up the horror element.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of the brain goo and things like that. Brain on the floor, slime. You get Kondo being shot towards the end of the story where you see blood and there's a great big hole in his gut. And I suppose maybe for the time it was a bit shocking. It's because the overall tone is quite dark, isn't it? For Doctor Who. We're going into the Hinchcliffe era when Doctor Who did go into that sort of more hammer horror. So I can imagine Mary Whitehouse being appalled by it. I don't think it went too far, but I can see where she might have been coming from at the time.
Yeah. Apparently she was mainly concerned with the scene where Solon shoots Kondo, resulting with a big spurt of blood.
It is. I mean, there's no two ways about it. You see it there all on screen. He does get shot quite horrifically. But I don't know. I don't think it's bad, but
yeah. And I think the VHS version that you saw was because they put it out on TV again, but in December into a condensed 1 hour long kind of omnibus thing.
That's it.
So that might have been what you saw on video.
Yeah, apparently Christopher Barry was really unhappy about that because Philip Hinchcliffe did the editing when they cut it down for an hour, and Christopher Barry said, "Oh, do you want me to? I don't mind being a consultation on it to help you." And apparently he didn't want him to, and he was really unhappy with how it was re-edited. Apparently, but I can't see. I mean, there's not much in it. If I was editing this. We said earlier it moves along at a good pace. I don't think there's anything I would particularly cut out or thinks needs. There's not a point in the story where I'm sort of sat there thinking, "Oh God, this is padding" or "This is boring." I think that everything is in there for a reason because we got quite a fairly sort of simple story, but lots going on in that story. So
yes. And before we get on to scores, something that might be quite cool to try and pick up, if we can still get it, the Target novelisation written by Terence Dix was actually released as an unabridged audio book by Tom Baker.
Read by Tom Baker, yes.
So I might see if I can get that from somewhere. I imagine you can still pick it up, can't you, from BBC or Amazon or something?
Yeah, I think a lot of them, who did they used to be with? The company went bust and then another company took over not that long ago. Okay. And they started reissuing a lot of them. I should think you'll be able to pick that up. I bet that's really good, actually, read by Tom.
I was going to say, I don't normally go in for too many of those, but I think this one would be a really good one, read by Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a look.
Right, scores, my good fellow.
Scores. Whose turn is it to go first?
I think it's me.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10.
A 9 out of 10. Okay. I've gone ever so slightly lower with an 8.5.
Okay.
An 8.5. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. And I think Philip Maddock is superb.
Yes.
I always think there's more of him and Tom together for some reason. Whenever I watch this, because I love it when they are together. I love the interaction between Tom and Philip.
Yeah. It's great.
But 8.5 out of me, but a really, really good, enjoyable story, I think.
Okay, cool. Yeah, for me, it has all the ingredients, really, that make up a great classic Who story. There isn't much to dislike about it. It's a bit like odd moments where you just have a little chuckle at the production and stuff like that. And a couple of bits could have been easily been fixed with a couple of reshoots or a couple of little bits, but I understand that that's not always possible making a TV show of this type back in the day. So, but all the cast are really, really good. Tom's brilliant. Sarah Jane's great. Yeah, just nothing really to dislike. It's a great story. Love it. Love it. What did you guys think? I'm going to go to Twitter first. George Garrity at G_Unit91 says, wow, this is one of my favourites. I love the horror style in which it's filmed, and it works brilliantly with Morbius's Frankenstein-like body. The characters are great, especially the titular villain. 10 out of 10, one of my faves.
10 out of 10.
Yeah. And also Fusion Patrol podcast, Twitter name at Fusion Patrol. They just say, Brain of Morbius, a classic. I love the talking brain in the jar. Over on Facebook, Kai McNamee.
Oh, Kai.
Nice to have you back commenting, Kai. He says, the Brain of Morbius is one of the many jewels to come out of the Hinchcliffe Holmes era of Doctor Who. An inventive story that takes a classic tale of Frankenstein and does something new with it that only Doctor Who can do. Replete with the trademark balance of humour and horror that peppers the stories in Season 13, delivered brilliantly by the regulars and a stellar supporting cast alike. Accompanied by splendid set and costume designs and Dudley Simpson's chilling incidental music. Undoubtedly a 10 out of 10.
Yes.
Thank you, Kai. Bradley Knox. Love this episode. The second Tom Baker I watched. The Doctor and Sarah work so well together, and who doesn't love a brain in the jar? 8 out of 10.
I've always said I wanted a brain in the jar next to my bed. One day I'll get one.
One day.
I don't know why, I just love that. I'd love to have that brain next to my bed as a light.
We could do a mashup. We could do the brain in the glass Dalek set from Revelation.
Sure, that would be awesome.
Anyways, let's do some audio stuff. This is Jay Kent.
Hey, Gary and Adam, hope you're well. Now, picture me the idea of the cliche brain in a jar being a threatening villain to work in Doctor Who. I'd have thought you were mad, but the Brain of Morbius takes the idea and runs with it perfectly. Not only do we have the brilliant narrative of Morbius' resurrection, but we also have an equally brilliant side plot of the sisterhood of Karn and Ludo's arm and his relationship with the sciencey bloke, his name escapes me. No, but the one thing I love about this episode is that it also uses a sciencey way of getting out of trouble by mixing chemicals and making that cause a reaction and things, which I want to see more of in New Who. I really miss that element to Doctor Who. But needless to say, I love this episode, and I can't give it any more than a 9 out of 10. But seeing as this is one of my favourite Fourth Doctor episodes, I can't be any more biased. More biased. Never mind me. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the show. Hope you're all right, and yes.
I think that's a good review there from Jay.
It is. I love what Jay says about the Doctor using using his brain to get out of situations as well. I totally agree. I want to see more of that as well, because I love it when the Doctor has to improvise with the tools around him rather than just using a sonic to open the door. So I'm with you there, Jay.
Do you know what? That's a good point. I do miss that about Classic Who. There's not enough reversing of the polarity these days and all that stuff, is there? Yeah.
No, I just love to see the Doctor using his brain, just because he is clever.
Yeah, using tools and his brain, and not relying on a companion or a sonic to do the stuff. Yeah. Nice one, Jay. Back onto Facebook, Sammy Satine. So the Sisterhood of Karn have this sacred flame, and the Doctor decides to help them by giving them what appears to be matches, and that somehow fixes it. Meanwhile, Mahandri Solon is the servitude of Morbius, some evil Time Lord who apparently executed, except his brain still works, and he is using Mahandri Solon to get himself a new body and a head. The weird body he gets seems to resemble some sort of hairy, slightly yellow creature with one human arm and one arm claw. What I don't understand is how the Time Lords didn't see the brain was still working or around and working when Morbius was executed, and why it took them so long to find out he was still around. I always enjoy seeing the Sisterhood of Karn, though I don't approve of them trying to sacrifice the Doctor. I enjoyed this story, though. I was sad there was no jelly babies to be seen.
No.
Sarah Jane Smith is just awesome as per usual, as is Tom Baker. A solid episode, 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, okay.
Cheers, Sammy. Ben Smith says, it's by my two favourite writers, and of course I'm going to love it. A typical Hinchcliffe story, and it's very dark and horror-inspired. All of the characters are great and brought to life wonderfully by the cast. Morbius is a fantastic monster, and the music really adds to the atmosphere. Easily one of the best Baker stories, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I do love Dougie's music.
Dougie
no, not Dougie Camfield.
No,
That's a director. What's he called? Who do I mean?
Dudley Simpson.
That's the one.
Dudley. Right. George Coppen. Really love this episode. I might actually give it a rewatch soon. Love Karn and the Sisterhood. The evil professor, can't remember the actor's name, is brilliant. Really good dark story, 9 out of 10. And lastly, Lewis Palmer, he says in capitals at the beginning, masterpiece. I've watched this a lot. It is so incredibly enjoyable with a lovely Frankenstein influence. I'll have to rewatch this one to see the Sisterhood of Karn again after their recent return. One nitpick would be that the Sarah Jane plot about her being blinded felt very drawn out. Easily for me, a 9.5 out of 10. Even a sponge has more life than I. From Morbius himself.
Yeah.
Anything over on the Geek's Handbag, buddy?
Geek's Handbag, yeah. Well, I'm going to start with a shocking tweet.
A shocking tweet.
A shocking tweet. Because this was one of the first things I got when I put it on Twitter. I'm just waiting for my phone to load. So this was from John P.
Okay.
And basically when I put it on, sorry, I'm struggling to find it now. Here we go. Right, he says it's got to be my least favourite Tom Baker story. So best of luck watching that, he says.
Oh.
John,
whoa.
What am I seeing that you're not seeing? Because we love it. So yeah, John P, not so impressed. Thankfully on Geek's Handbag, on the Facebook page, we had a couple more positive reviews. And I do apologise that my phone's being really slow to load. Here we go. Right, Jace from the 500 Year Diary says, an absolute classic, very gothic, and could easily have been made by Hammer. Yeah, I think Peter Cushing was actually thought of to be Solon at one point. I think they were going to cast him. Yeah. And Adam Tyne-Lord Fishwick says it's one of his favourite stories ever. So a bit more positive. But yeah, I am surprised. I very rarely hear anybody who doesn't like this one. So a little bit surprised by John P. But it's good to have a balanced review. So thanks very much for your comments.
Yep. Anything on the Geeks Handbag Facebook page at all?
Oh, no, that was the Geeks Handbag Facebook page. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, mate. Sorry.
It's only John P on Twitter.
Oh, very sorry. Right, so I would say overall then, everyone seems to love Brain of Morbius.
Yeah, I think it's a blimmin' classic.
And it's very fitting to do such a great story for Tom Baker's birthday week as well.
Yes, and unplanned as well. You, I was quite pleased when I realised we were doing a Baker this week. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. What are we going to review next week, my good man?
Oh, next week, well, we're diving back into the slightly more modern era, going for an Eccleston, and it's going to be Dalek that we review next week.
Aha.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, The last time we did an Eccleston story was back in August last year, which was Boomtown.
Oh, right. Wow. Yeah. Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. I haven't watched it for a while, so will be good to go through that one with you.
Yeah. So anyways, that's going to do it for episode 74. So Brain of Morbius, a 9 for me and an 8.5 from you.
Yeah.
I think we're good. So thank you very, very much for sticking with us for this. We've gone through some pretty cool news items today.
Yeah.
And we've reviewed one of the shining lights out of the classic Tom Baker era. I mean, they're all pretty good, the Tom Baker stuff, but I think this one, I don't know, it's just one of the brilliantly, when everything comes together.
It does stand out for me, yeah. I think, especially because of Philip Maddock, I think he just is so enjoyable to watch. Yeah.
And thank you also for, as always, sending in your audio clips and Facebook thoughts and Twitter and all that stuff. Please continue to do so, because that stuff is awesome. And we love seeing what you guys think about stuff, because, like you say, we need some balance in the review and stuff. We like hearing everybody's thoughts, good or bad. Yes, so check out the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can re-listen to this, and you can listen to all the previous shows as well, and you can also jump off from there to go and find us on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. Also check out Adam's channel, The Geek's Handbag, over on YouTube and Facebook.
Yep, got a little convention vid coming up this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Is this the Peterborough?
This is the TV and Movie Fest Peterborough, where I met the governor, Peter Davison. So, yeah, that should, all being well, should be out this weekend.
Yay, good times. For those of you listening on iTunes or anything to do with Apple, if you could jump on there and give us a review, that would be amazing, because that really, really does help us so much, and we thank you a lot for that. But anyway, next week, get watching the Eccleston stuff. We need to review Dalek, so we're looking forward to your thoughts on that. Until then, have a fantastic week, and we'll see you soon. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember...
Lonzy!